Do you understand why people believe that by trying to sell your book, you're potentially selling out your own country?
Well, I don't think that way at all. I think the Democrats are upset that their political malpractice on impeachment brought them to failure, and so of course they're looking for others to blame. But it's the way they approach the impeachment process, I think, that preordained the outcome. That Donald Trump is upset with me doesn't surprise me at all. His reactions, frankly, have been childish and degrading to the presidency.
One of the most damning aspects of your book is that you basically confirmed that there was a quid pro quo with Ukraine. That's ultimately what got the president impeached, and yet you stayed quiet, you didn't testify in the impeachment inquiry. Critics say that that means you're complicit and cowardly.
No, I reject that completely. Look, the House Democrats took the impeachment process right off a cliff. And halfway down, they looked up and said, hey, come and join us. And I was not about to do that.
You paint a picture of him as almost in awe of strong men, you know, desperate for meetings with Kim Jong-un and Vladimir Putin. Were they playing him for a fool?
I think they were. I think they could see through him. I don't think they were overt about it. But I think they knew exactly who the mark was.
He would say that the relationship with those men he was able to foster in a way no other leader before him did.
Right. Well, let's take Kim Jong-un. He got nothing for it after 2 years of effort. In fact, in just the past few weeks, the North Koreans have literally blown up the liaison offices they constructed to have talks with the South Koreans. The whole thing came to nothing but a series of photo opportunities, which, with all due respect, I think was entirely predictable.
Was re-election often put above national security?
In my judgment, yes. Trump doesn't really have a philosophy or a grand strategy or even policies that he follows. It's all about Donald Trump, and it follows from that. In many respects, he has a very short attention span, not when it comes to his re-election. His attention span there is infinite.
What do you think is his worst crime when it comes to foreign policy?
Look, I think ignorance is the worst crime. I just don't think that saying that I don't need more facts, I can sit down, as he has said, I can sit down with the Ayatollah Khamenei, we'll hammer out a nuclear deal in one day. It's just not true. So when I think of the prospect of him on the other side of the table from Vladimir Putin negotiating a strategic arms treaty, I'm very worried for the United States.
You described Donald Trump as stunningly uninformed, and that during one trip he appeared unaware that Britain was a nuclear power. Is he really that clueless?
I can tell you in that meeting, which was at Chequers, hosted by Prime Minister May, when the President made that comment, the stiff British upper lips didn't quiver, but their eyes got wide as saucers. And I was sitting there thinking to myself, what do we say next? And I think Prime Minister May changed the subject fairly quickly.
Well, let's talk about Theresa May and Donald Trump's relationship with her. You say that he didn't like her, that you felt the feeling was mutual. Can you elaborate a bit on that?
Well, I think they come from obviously very different backgrounds, have very different approaches to politics. My own opinion, and I can't approve this, I think he has trouble with women leaders. I think he had trouble with Chancellor Merkel of Germany. These are not substantive disagreements. These are personality issues. But because of the way Trump looks at relations with other leaders, he has enormous difficulty distinguishing between the personal relationship he has with the leader of another country and the fundamental U.S. relationship with the other country as a whole.
Do you think he's sexist?
You know, I don't know what the issue is, but time and again we seem to run into that difficulty. Don't get me wrong, he had bad relationships with plenty of male leaders too.
He says he's a stable genius. How would you describe him?
Well, let me ask you this. Do you know of anybody else in your personal acquaintance who would say that about themselves?
No.
Neither do I. So that's my answer. That tells you a lot about what you need to know.
The US is currently gripped by coronavirus, racial division. Is this a country in decline?
No, I don't think so at all, but I do think that Trump leadership during these two crises has made things worse. Much of our failure to respond effectively can be laid at Donald Trump's feet. Donald Trump didn't want to hear it. He didn't want to hear bad news about his buddy Xi Jinping. He didn't want to hear the truth about China covering up the extent of the threat of the coronavirus. Most important of all, he didn't want to hear about potential bad economic news for the United States from a widespread pandemic, which would endanger his ticket to re-election.